to identify the relationship and connection between facts in the listening text. The fact, whatever you've listened to here is considered a fact. So please pay attention. How well are you able to understand this fact, or how well are you able to draw a connection between these two facts or multiple facts? Then the next question type is the plan, map, or diagram completion. Okay, so this question type happens to be the most difficult question in the listening tests. Yes. Let me explain. This is where a lot of people usually get confused in the listening test. I think I have a sample here. I think I have a sample of the listening test here, of this kind of question here. Before we move on, let me quickly show us a sample. Okay. Can we see this diagram? When attempting this, please try to pause this video. Try to pause the video at this point. Now, please take note. There's an entrance, right? And there's a left, there's a right. Sorry, there's a left and there's a right. Now, please take note of this entrance. Usually, when you are discussing this type of thing, you should take note at the beginning points in the description. So please take note of this entrance here. Take note of, where is that entrance? Take note of this entrance and this car park here. What I have circled, take note of it. Then when you're listening, try to take note of other parts. Now, they could use north, south, east, and west, which we would call a compass. They could use something like this. They could use something like this, right, for these descriptions. So please take note. Or they could use left and right. They could use left and right. So take note of this. It is important you take note of this. You might want to pause the video. In fact, I would include this in the document before sending it. I would include this diagram in the document before sending it. So you might want to take note of this diagram. I had already uploaded it, but I'll need to change it again. Now you might want to take note of this diagram. Okay. So now with this kind of questions, these questions requires you to complete or label, to complete the labels on a plan. For example, a building plan, a map, for instance, a section of a town, or a diagram, for instance, a piece of equipment. Typically, you can choose answers from a list on the question paper, but most times you're not given answers to choose from. The list would be mentioned in the audio. So you have to listen carefully to what would be said. And I mentioned earlier, please take note of the entrance point, of the beginning point, of the starting point. That would help you because they will tell you, okay, they are going this way, they are going this way, or they are going north, they are going left. Or when you look right, or when you look left, or when you look north, when you look west, or when you look south, or when you look east, things like that. Please pay attention to this. It is paramount that you pay attention to this, to the beginning point. It is at that beginning point. If you miss that beginning point, the chances of missing everything are very high. So please pay attention to that beginning point. Then next, this task assesses your ability to comprehend, say, a diagram or a description of a location and relate it to a visual representation. A visual representation here is the diagram. This may include the ability to understand and follow language expressing direction or direction expressing languages. That is to say straight, straight on, turn left, opposite, south, east, west, left, right, etc. Please take note of this. Now, what tips can you apply to this question type? Tip number 1, pay attention to certain words at the beginning of the test. Places like the entrance, at the beginning of the test, they would always, or of this test, they would always tell you that, okay, let's take a tour of the Riverside community. Now you discover that, okay, since they are taking a tour, that means they will show us possibly a map or the plan of a place. If they said plan or street, pay attention, they would always describe a street or a plan. If they said a building plan, then pay attention to that. They would always describe it. Then the next thing is note the kind of words that you're required to write down. It could be a name of a place, or it could be a type of a building. Then next, look at other words in the map. If, for instance, you look at the diagram I just showed you, you'll see words like the engine room. You see words like the engine room. Where is that? The engine room. You see words like this. If I were to be writing this test, I would first of all circle the engine room, then circle something for the workers. They must mention something that belongs to the workers. Then I circle the, if you notice at the beginning, I circled the entrance and I circled the car park. Then I'll circle the work office. They must mention all these things in the diagram. Now, one thing that happens in diagram description or in map description is that they would use what you can see to describe what you are looking for. Definitely, they must use words in the table, words on the map or on the diagram to describe words that are not there or to describe things that you need to look for their names. Please pay attention to this. Please pay attention to this. Then look at more than one question at a time. Okay, sorry, I'm laughing, but I have mentioned this earlier. Look at more than one question at a time. If you missed the answer to question 3, if you hear the answer to question 3 before you hear the answer to question 2, it simply means you have missed the question, the answer to question 2. In this kind of a case, just move on, just continue. Now, what is this trying to say? Pay attention to every answer. Look at more than one question at a time. At a time, look at more than one question. It is very important. Look at more than one question at a time. This is very, very important. Now, with this kind of a question, in this situation, you are expected right? If you miss the answer to any question, because the audio will not play again, you are just expected to move on. There will be distraction. You could be in the test hall and somebody is horning a truck outside. All those long trailers where they are horning, they scare person. All